What is up, rockers? Welcome back here to another Rise of Kingdoms content. Today we're going to talk about Thutmose the Third, and we're going to take a look if this is going to be a viable commander for early game. Now, there is really no way of obtaining Thutmose yet, but I believe there is going to be a release in the tavern. So right now, if we look into the tavern, as you guys know, I did my 3,000 gold key opening. If you guys haven't seen that, make sure to check it out right now. But Thutmose is not yet here in the tavern. I've already accumulated 84 gold keys since I've opened up 3,000. So he is definitely not here yet, but I believe he will end up being in the gold chest reward. Now, by that time, I'll probably accumulate a good amount already, and we're going to summon Thutmose there as well. Now, here's the thing. People have speculated that it could potentially be in the expedition. That would be really nice if Aethelflaed can be replaced, because I believe everybody has excess of Aethelflaed already for all the old players. So there could be an update for the old players in the old kingdoms to change Aethelflaed for Thutmose. But the thing is that, you know, they did not change Aethelflaed with their release of Ragnar. I don't really think Thutmose will replace Aethelflaed in the expedition. Unless there is some data already out there, then I'm wrong, alright? But for the meantime, based on my current knowledge, I don't think it's going to change. Now, currently, you can obtain Thutmose in here for the events only, and that event is pretty much done. There's no other way to obtain Thutmose unless you use your universal sculpture. So right now, we're not going to summon him yet because I don't want to spend $10 for the Writer of History, but I will eventually summon him. But let's take a look into Thutmose. If he is going to be worthy for many of the free-to-play players, just like when Ragnar was released, let's take a look if you should invest in Thutmose and how is this going to progress into your late-stage gaming. Alright, everybody, make sure to subscribe to the channel and don't forget to hit like, and let me know in the comment section below if you will be investing in Thutmose. If you like this commander, I want to know, so that, oh my god, he has a really cool cobra on his head. Okay, it's a good headgear. It's a good headgear. Thutmose, right? Okay, that's kind of sus. Oh, what a big arm. Okay, I'm just kidding. I'm just messing with you guys, all right? Just a little bit of a laughter here before we get in deep into the very deep into the video. All right, Brave Ruler. Okay, Brave Ruler. We got the Empire Builder, Conquest, Mitanni, Vast Territory, and Might of TB. So, looking at Thutmose in here, I can see that it's a very high DPS commander, very low on tanking ability, but really good onto DPS. So if you're using Thutmose in the battlefield, you're most likely gonna get wrecked if you're targeted. But if you manage to sneak into the battles, you are definitely going to inflict significant amount of damage to the opponents. So looking at the first skill, this active skill right now, when the rage have reached 1,000 in here, you are going to have a 1,000 damage factor, which is an AoE targeting 3 targets in a forward facing fan shape area. Also, you're going to reduce 15% for each target that you hit, but there is also a debuff in here for the opponent that has healing capability, which is going to be a healing effect reduction of 30%. Now, we've seen a similar skill here with Ramses, but with Ramses it says here, meanwhile, it is inflicted with a heal immune effect. So, renders target troops unable to heal any slightly wounded units. Alright, so similar to Ramses, you're just going to reduce that healing effect to 30%. Now, the second skill of Thutmose in here, by the way, I don't really know how to pronounce it correctly. Is it Thutmose or Thutmose? Let me know. Is it first one or the second one? all archer skills in here, all right? So all the archers that you are going to be using, it's not saying that you can only lead archer units or it's not going to work. So all archer units led by this commander will gain 15% increased attack and 10% marching speed. Now, if you switch up, like, if you put infantry in this setup, then you're not going to benefit on the archer marching speed. As we know, archers are faster than infantry. All right, troops deal 15% increased damage outside of the alliance territory. This is amazing because if you, in the early stages of the game, if you use mixed troops, you are still going to benefit with this skill as long as you have archer units mixed in that. What you can do is perhaps a cav archer mix to prevent you from being countered by cavs in the early stages of the game. That is something that you can do because your cavs will still get the bonus of 15%. And then your archer marching speed will also get 10%. And it kind of maybe compensate with the cavs marching speed, depending on which commanders that you are going to be using as well. All right, so it's not going to dramatically decrease your speed. So the third skill in here, archer units defense increase by 10% on the map. So on the map means you are moving around the map. You're not in farming mode. That means it's not going to work if you are, or if you're in a structure, it's not going to work. You have to be on the grass. Now, each troop attack has a 10% chance of inflicting debuff to the target, increasing its damage taken by 15% for 3 seconds. So pairing up Thutmose here, or Mr. T, let's just call Mr. T, Mr. T here, pairing him up with something that is high active skill damage is definitely the best case scenario. Now, I mentioned about, commanders that you can pair up with, like for cavs, right? In the early stage, let's say you have Pelagius, you can definitely do something like that. But we're going to talk about that in a little bit in here. Make sure to look down in the timeline because I'll put a timeline for the commander pairing as well. All right, by the way, don't forget to hit like onto the video. Appreciate it. And let me know how you guys are doing today as you're watching this video. What's your snack? Okay, if you've gone this far, I want to know. And by the way, we got a new mic. How do I sound? Do I sound better or do I sound the same? All right, so last skill, the vast territory before the expertise in here. Troops led by this commander take 10% less counterattack damage when attacked. There is a 10% chance to deal skill damage to the target for a 700 damage factor, triggers once every 8 seconds. Now, I mentioned earlier that Thutmose is definitely not going to be the tankiest. It's not going to be as tanky as Ramses, but this counterattack damage taken reduction is significant enough to get him by or get him through the battlefield. So if everybody is attacking Thutmose, you have a little bit of a spiky defense like a porcupine that you're going to be able to reduce the damage that you're going to take. 10%, not a whole lot, honestly, but it's still better than nothing. But whenever you're being attacked, you have a 10% chance to deal a skill damage to the target, whoever you're targeting for this, with a 700 damage factor. And remember, this is an AoE skill. And by doing that, everybody is going to get hit if you are in the battlefield. So it's not really super tanky, but you have some ability to absorb some damage. But at the end of the day, this is going to be relatively soft. Now, the expertise of Thutmose in here, after using an active skill, troop deals 30% more normal attack damage for 3 seconds. This triggers once every 8 seconds. Now, this is huge in my opinion. Whenever you use your active skill, you're going to hit 30% more normal attack damage. So, in the commander pairing, let's talk about this. Now, Thutmose is definitely a wonderful commander. Versatility to the max. You can use any unit type really will benefit in this in the early stages of the game if you cannot make a full archer setup. But first, let's talk about archer pairing, and then let's talk about pairings that you can do if you do not have all the archer pairings yet. Now, Thutmose third, you definitely want to pair it up with some of the epic. You want to start with epic commanders. Initially, you won't have legendary commanders. You really want to resort into epic commanders. Now, for archers, you have various chances of commanders that you can use for epic commanders. You have Imhotep. Now, Imhotep is a really good pair as well with Thutmose. This is going to be a really full support type of setup. If you are starting out into the game, you're free to play, you want to do a full support setup, you can definitely do an Imhotep and Thutmose in here. Now you can see this is going to inflict debuff up to 5 target within the radius for 3 seconds, increasing their damage taken by 30%. So if you do a Imhotep Thutmose setup, you got to make sure that you're within the team because you want them to benefit on this debuff that you are going to inflict the target. It says here, when Imhotep is a secondary commander, the target also gains 50 less rage per second for 3 seconds. Now, this is a viable setup. Thutmose gotta be primary, Imhotep gotta be secondary, but I don't think this is the best option that you can do because I think setting up Thutmose into 60 might not be the most beneficial for you in the long term with this gaming of Rise of Kingdoms, in my opinion. You get some buff in here. Of course, you're not going to get the garrison troop buff in here if you are in the field. Thutmose is definitely a field commander, but another combination that you can do with Thutmose is Herman. I think Herman is definitely the best option to do. You have some active skill damage and able to silence the opponent, get some attack bonus in here and marching speed as well, and then you also have a chance to gain extra 100 range. And as you remember, we talked about the damage, right? The normal attack damage that you gain from Thutmose. So with the Herman skill, you know, you can really pair it up with Thutmose in here. You're going to be able to cast much faster, much sooner, and then you're going to trigger this expertise skill, which is absolutely insane. So I think Herman would be the best pair to use in the archer setup in here for Thutmose combination. Now, another commander that you can definitely use is Kosonoki. If you started with Japan, Kosonoki is a commander that you can definitely use. This is an AoE commander, removes any debuff that, you know, inflicts on you. Not as good as Herman, in my opinion. I do like Kosonoki, but I do prefer Herman. You get, you know, archer, increase attack by 15% and increase defense. It's a high DPS damage, but I really just like the silence from Herman. But then you can also debate if you are in the battlefield and there is a lot of players out there, you want that AoE. So if you're looking for that AoE hit, then Kosonoki is definitely the best thing for you to use. So Kosonoki and Herman would be more ideal, in my opinion, for Thutmose. Now, if we are going to look into the legendary, then I would definitely recommend YSG. Now, in the early stages of the game, I do think that having YSG as a primary is not a bad option. Now, if you really want to go for Thutmose and get it to 60, then it's fine. You do get Rejuvenate much better in the support tree compared to the skill tree. Because if you look into the support tree, you can actually get 150 rage, you know, whenever you use an active skill, but whenever you have the skill path in here, you're actually only getting 60 rage per second. So there's that little bit of a, you know, exchange there. All right, so it really depends on what you want, but for me, I don't think I will make Thutmose 60 because now in the later stages of the game, stars wise are crucial, especially if I'm not spending. But I don't really wholly recommend getting Thutmose to 60, right? But if you really want to, yes, you can. It's not a bad option to do so because there's going to be other commanders that are going to be much better primary commander than Thutmose. All right, so the thing that I would recommend is YSG. The reason why I would recommend YSG is because that YSG has this ability to increase skill damage bonus, which we have already talked about. Thutmose is a very high DPS, and at the same time, you are going to be able to increase your rage regen with YSG. It says here 10% chance to gain extra 100 rage for each normal attack. Plus, when you have expertise YSG, you are going to hit with the circular AoE. Now, this combination is definitely not going to be tanky. This is a DPS March, damage per second March. Now, as we progress into the game, maybe you're a little bit of an older player now, you want to take a look at what kind of combination that you're thinking. I would recommend Ramses. If you're gonna utilize a YSG with somebody else, you can definitely do a Ramses and Thutmose. I think that is a good setup to do so. You're gonna really, you know, bother those players that has a healing capability because they're not gonna be able to really maximize their healing capability. Ramses also huge attack damage, normal attack damage, because of its talent tree going to the attack part in here, you're definitely going to benefit a lot with the Thutmose skill from Ramsey's combination. Now, I wouldn't recommend Edward of Woodstock. I don't think it's a good combo. There are also other commanders that you can use here with Thutmose if you would like. There is, like, Nebuchadnezzar, Gilgamesh. These are some of the commanders that you can also use with Thutmose, because you're really getting a lot of benefit for this as well with the combination that you can do. I would say Neb would be really good. I mean, honestly, even Gilga is really great to use for Thutmose as well. So if you have Gilgamesh and Neb, you can definitely combine that as well and see if which one is better for you. Now, things that are no, I wouldn't recommend it with El Cid, not really recommended with Tomiris, not really recommended with Cyrus the Great as well. Now, let's talk about like other commanders that you can use to pair up with Thutmose with different unit type. So I mentioned earlier that these skills are not specific for archers only, right? Because there are some skills that it dictates that only archers unit, right? When that happens, you cannot mix troop, but this one you can actually have a mixed troop. So Aethelflaed, this is a good combination that you can do. Aethelflaed and Thutmose, this is going to be really good for free to play because you can utilize these commanders for free. All right. Another thing that I would say in the epic sense, you can definitely use like Pelagius, as I mentioned earlier. Pelagius has Rage Restore benefit here. So that is going to be really good and high damage as well as a epic commander for cavalry. Another thing that we can recommend is Sun Tzu. As you guys know, Sun Tzu also has another ability here to rage regen, also AoE and skill damage increase just like YSG. And Sun Tzu is one of the most recommended epic commander in Rise of Kingdoms. Who else can we pair it up with? You can do it with Osman if you would like. You can do it with Baybars if you would like. You can even use it with Bjorn Ironside if you like. High skill damage in here as well. So there's definitely a lot of combinations that you can do with Thutmose. I want to know, what is your thought process onto this? Now, if you want to run it with like an archer mix, if you want to do a Guan Yu, another high skill damage as well with Thutmose combination, you can do it. But again, you're not going to benefit a lot because of the unit type. If you have a little bit of archer in there, maybe that's okay. But I'm only recommending these type of scenarios in the players that do not have the ability to have a full unit. All right. But by this stage, you should be able to do a full unit anyway. So it shouldn't be, big deal. You can definitely make some changes if you get zeroed. If you get wrecked, you're running out of troops and you need to make some combinations just for scrapyard combinations, you can definitely do something like that. But at the end of the day, the best thing to do in Rise of Kingdoms is a full unit type, doing a full archer or full infantry, full cavalry, because you get the maximum benefit from the talent tree and from the skills of your commanders. So let's get back into our question previously. In the very beginning of the video, I asked, is Thutmose III a viable commander for early game? I believe the right answer here is yes, he is. Now, if he is going to be coming out in the tavern as we expect it to be, I wouldn't really dump all your sculptures into Thutmose. I would slowly max him out by opening keys. But if you're really in a rush, if you're a whale, I'm sure this doesn't really matter. But if you're free to play, you can work on Thutmose slowly through the opening of Golden Key. Now at the end, if you're like super close onto maxing him out, then you can definitely use some sculptures for this. Besides that, rockers, we've given you some amazing tips here for Thutmose. I think this is a commander that have a long future in Rise of Kingdoms.